Hello everyone, so today I'm going to show you a really useful automation, and this is going to help you automate creating sales receipts on QuickBooks. This is something that a lot of businesses, especially small and medium businesses, have to deal with. A lot of manual work, which can take hours, having to take all of those orders that you take from your online store. In this case, we're going to be working with a Squarespace store. And it's going to be about taking all of those orders and having to enter them on QuickBooks. And a lot of businesses have to manually go through every order and manually enter them into QuickBooks. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to recreate this automation that is going to help automate this process to make things smoother and save some time. But essentially, the gist of it is we're going to be creating a webhook that's going to take the, all of the information the moment it gets created. And then we're going to be checking if it's because Squarespace has many different webhook events. So we want to be searching only for those that get triggered when an order is created. So we're going to filter those out. Anything that doesn't, we're simply going to log it. For small businesses, it could be something. You can use something as simple as Google Sheets for logging, but for medium to large businesses, you're going to want something more robust. So for this particular case, we're going to be using Supabase. So here we have a Supabase table, which we're going to use for logging. And well, here's a view of the columns that this table contains. You can pause it here if you want to recreate this table. Again, this is for demonstration purposes. You can log any information you want, but this is what I'm going to be using for logging for this example. So we have a timestamp, topic, order number, customer email, customer ID, sales receipt ID, whether the customer was found on the system, status on the order, and any reasons, especially if there's any errors that were generated. Usually this is where you want to fill up with whatever may have caused the error. And of course, you are going to be needing a Squarespace account. Do keep in mind that to be able to use the Squarespace API, the Commerce API, you will need to have at least a core subscription or an advanced one. It's not covered. The basic subscription does not include access to the Commerce API. So make sure that you have at least the core membership. And here we have what an average Squarespace invoice is going to look like. And we're going to go back to the main automation. So what we're going to do is we're going to take when an order gets created. And then we're going to pull out the full information for that order, because when the order gets generated, that first webhook request doesn't bring all of the order information. It simply brings the order ID. You can see it right here. Just brings some basic information and the order that was generated. So then you have to trigger another request that's going to bring the full details of the order. And that is what you actually want to enter on QuickBooks. And once we've retrieved the information, of course, you want to tie it to a customer that you have on, which you may or may not have created on QuickBooks. So then we're going to go ahead and look for a customer. And of course, we're going to check if there is already an existing customer profile on QuickBooks. And well, if there is, we're just gonna go ahead and move on. But if there isn't, we're gonna go ahead and trigger another request to create a profile for that customer. And then we're gonna save those values, and then comes the actual main request where the sales receipt gets created, and it gets tied to the customer profile on QuickBooks. And of course, finally, to finalize, we want to log this event, right? Just keep it on record that it was successfully generated. And that's it. That's the automation, pretty much. So now we're gonna go ahead and recreate that. Alright, so obviously the very first step is going to be to actually create the webhook that's going to be listening to all of those Squarespace requests, all of those webhook triggers. So we're going to go ahead and create the webhook for it. And there's already a webhook node, so let's get to it. Okay, and here we go. So we have created the webhook for the order creation. So we have a URL, and we want to well, first of all, we want to make sure that we set this to accept post requests, which is how we are going to be receiving the webhook events from Squarespace. And then we want to set a custom path, something simple like just Squarespace. When you're in a live environment, you want to set some sort of an authentication, but for this demo we're going to leave it without any sort of authentication. And then of course, according to the Squarespace API, this is normally the kind of information that gets received when an order gets created, and this is what gets sent to the webhook. And of course, as you can see, this is the actual important bit of information, the actual order ID for the order that was just created when a payment has been made and when somebody has made an order. And of course, well, we've already added that to our automation as an example. So now we're going to go ahead and save that. And now the next step comes is actually we're going to evaluate for the type of event. As you can see, what we were interested in are the order.create events, which are the ones that specifically for when orders get created, because those are the ones that we want to add to QuickBooks. So now we're going to go ahead and add an if statement to filter out the order create from the rest. Okay, and here we are. Here we are created an if node to filter out order creations from any other webhook event. So in here, what we're going to do is we took, of course, the topic from the request body, and make sure that it is equal to order.create, and that we will only going to be managing order creations and going to be filtering out the rest. And of course, when you see it evaluates to true, because the set data that we used is actually an order creation, so it evaluated to true. And what we're going to do in this situation is that what we're going to do is for false, we're going to go ahead and just simply log the event that it wasn't an order creation, and if it is true, then we're going to go ahead and move on to the next segment. So for now, I'm just going to go ahead and add a log on Supabase. Okay, so now that we've already created a row on Supabase, this is for logging for non-create events. We did something like this. So for our Supabase account, we're creating a row for the table order logs, which is this one. And we simply populate the fields, the topic, of course, and the order number. You want to fill up the status. In this case, we're simply going to add the word skipped. This is getting logged because this event got skipped. And remember, because this is for the cases in which the webhook event is not an order create. So those are simply going to get skipped. We're simply going to log those. And then finally, the reason, we can add it here. It's for an unexpected topic or an unpaid order. Now we're going to go ahead and head back here. Now we're going to follow down the true path. So now the next thing we want to do is, this is for when an order was created. So now we got the order ID from the initial webhook event. Now what we want to do is get the rest of the full information for that order so that we can add that information to QuickBooks. So now I'm just going to go ahead and set that up. Okay, and now I've created this node to simulate what's going to happen once we've retrieved all of the full order details. This is as per the Squarespace API documentation, and this is what a full order object looks like. All the details: shipping address, client information, everything that was ordered, and all of the corresponding item IDs, taxes, etc., any discounts that were applied. And now with this information, what we want to do is we're going to take the customer ID, and we're going to use this the email. We're going to use the email because one thing about QuickBooks is that with QuickBooks you can actually duplicate customer profiles. So something you want to do is you want to make sure that the custom profiles are made unique, and one of the ways you can do that is by classifying them by their email addresses. So in this case, we're going to take the email address and search by that, and then obviously if we get a result, we're already going to have a customer ID. If we don't, we're going to proceed and create a customer ID. So for now, we're just going to go ahead and create a QuickBooks node to search for a customer. Go ahead and get a customer. Alright, so here it is. We're going to go ahead and search for our customer. So we're going to use our QuickBooks Online account credential. We're going to look through the customer table, and then we're going to use get many because we're going to use a conditional to filter out the customer that we need. In this case, we're going to filter out by customer email. So we're going to go ahead and use the customer email variable, and this should get us the result. So if we go ahead and execute, this should bring us a result, and there it is. So this has successfully retrieved and found a customer profile on QuickBooks. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and set up the other decision down the workflow. So if in this case, since it found the customer, we're just going to move on to the next step, and we're also going to create the other branch in which if a customer isn't found, then we're just going to go ahead and create one. So in here, I'm just going to go ahead and hit an if. Alright, so this is pretty simple, pretty straightforward. We're simply going to check if the JSON object from the previous node is empty or not. Obviously, if it's not empty, then it means that a customer was found. So we're going to evaluate for if that is true. If that is true, then yes, a customer was found. So then that would execute the true branch rather than the false branch. And we can actually test that real quick. Once that it's pulled, we see that indeed it turned out to be true. Okay, so now that this is set up, now we're gonna set up the two branches. So if it is true, which it is in this case, we're simply gonna move on to the next step. We're actually gonna do this trick because we're going to eventually merge the two. If it is true, of course, we're just gonna take all of that information that was extracted, such as name, email, customer ID, etc. And if it is false, then we're gonna go ahead and create a customer. And then when the customer gets created, we're gonna get all of the information for that profile that was created. And then we're gonna merge the two to create one simple branch for the rest of the process, which would be to create the sales receipt with the customer profile, which is 100% created right now, depending on whether it was found before or not. Because if it was not found, then a new customer profile was created. So anyways, by this point, it's already gonna be guaranteed that whatever customer comes in is going to have a profile. So right now, what we're gonna do is, for the true branch, we're simply gonna create a node where we're going to capture all of the values that were brought from the customer profile. Okay, and here it is, it's ready. So this is a pretty simple node. We're simply setting some variables. Number one, the customer ID, which is the one that's going to use to update the information and to generate the sales receipt. Number two, the sync token. This is a variable that we used pretty much for idempotency, to make sure that we're always updating the same client. And a third one, just to indicate that the customer was found. In this case, this is true for the true branch. And that'll be it. And then now we're going to go ahead and work on the false branch, in which we create a profile for the new customer. And then we will create this same node, just to consolidate all of the values regardless of whether they're true or false. So now we're going to go ahead and create the customer profile on QuickBooks for new clients. So just going to go ahead and create a customer. Okay, so here we have the node creating the customer on QuickBooks. We simply go ahead and choose customer create, and we fill in the information, such as the display name, which is usually just first name space last name, and then some billing address information, and then some of the rest information, such as the last name, given name, email, and phone. And then this gets passed to the QuickBooks API, and the customer is created. So then after that, what we're going to do is we're going to create this field on this branch, so they can then merge them, and then whichever branch executed, those are the values that we're going to be getting. So we're going to go ahead and create the edit fields node for the false branch. Okay, and we went ahead and created the edit fields node for the false branch, and you can see it's the exact same values: customer ID, JSON ID, sync token, and the only difference is that for the customer found value, we're actually going to set it to false because we didn't find a customer and we had to create a profile. So now what we're going to do is, now that we have both the set fields, then we're going to merge them, and then once we merge them, we finally have everything that we need to create the sales receipt on QuickBooks. So right now I'm going to go ahead and merge these two. Alright, and here we go. We've taken the two branches and we've merged them. This is very simple. We simply choose append number of inputs 2 for the true and the false branches. And now we finally have all the information we need. So now we're going to go ahead and actually create the invoice and tie it to the corresponding customer profile on QuickBooks. Now in here, there is one caveat, and that is there's actually no QuickBooks native node to create the sales receipt, only to create invoices, and that is a very, very big difference, because invoices, it's for when they are unpaid, and for when they're paid you want to create sales receipts. But you see the API, at least the preset nodes that A8N has, doesn't have any for sales receipts. So for that, what we're going to do is we're actually going to use a normal HTTP request node, and then we'll use that to set up a specialized special setup, so that it's able to create the sales receipt on QuickBooks. So we're going to get out of here, and we're actually going to go ahead and use an HTTP request node, and we're going to go ahead and set that up. Okay, And here we have created the actual node that's gonna create the invoice along with the customer profile tie-in to tie the sales receipt with the customer profile. So now we set up the method post, the URL to the API, and then of course we're going to pass the values. We're going to choose a predefined credential type, or QuickBooks OAuth API. We're going to send a couple of parameters, one being the minor version. This is just something that it is asked for in the documentation. And of course this is the main one, send body, and this is where we're actually going to paint post all the necessary details, the doc number, which is the actual order number, then the customer ID, which is the customer reference number, etc., according to the Squarespace API. And then finally, this is almost done. Finally, all we have to do is log it. Once the sales receipt gets created, we're gonna go ahead and add it to log to Supabase to say, hey, this was successfully logged. So we're just gonna go ahead and create a row, and we're gonna fill in these values next. Okay, and here we are. This is the final node, which is logging the success on Supabase. Once the sales receipt has been created in QuickBooks. So here we go. This is just adding a row to the order logs table, and we are setting the fields, the topic, of course the order number, customer email, customer ID, and these are sales receipt ID. These are all the columns we added to the Supabase table. And this should be ready to go. And just one more, status success. Alright, so now we are ready to go. So if now we give it a test run, it should be creating a new invoice. So if we go to our QuickBooks, we should be able to see the sales receipt getting created. Okay, so here we go. This is our QuickBooks sandbox for testing. So we're going to go ahead and run a test sales receipt with our automation. So as you see here, we have the last generated one was March 28th, 2026. So we should, after I run the automation, you should see a more recent sales receipt. So we're going to go ahead and give that a try. We're now going to go ahead and run it. And it's running, and it evaluated to true, and now it's added, and now the it got logged to Supabase. So if we go and we hit refresh, we should be a more recent sales receipt than March 28th. And there you go, March 31st, same customer, sales receipt $55. And if we go to Supabase, we should see the new, I think it's refreshing right now. There we go. And it's the new order that got created. Here it is, March 31st, 2026, got created just now. And we have our automated sales receipt adding to QuickBooks along with some logging mechanism. And then you just leave this automation running, and every time you have an order getting created on Squarespace, you can automatically have it entered to your QuickBooks, and this is going to save you a lot of time. Of course, you can also keep it logged. As I said, for smaller businesses, you can just simply log these results in as simple as a Google spreadsheet. But again, for medium to large companies, you want something more robust, you can log these on technologies such as Supabase and a platform like Supabase. And if you have a similar setup like this and you want to help setting it up, just go ahead and contact me and I'll be happy to assist. And until next one.